Welcome back. With us right now from Harvard Eye Associates is Dr. Brian Kim. Good to see you, sir, as always.
Good to see you, Ken. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Great to have you back. And we're talking about a subject that I don't think we've talked about much. That it's not something that I'm familiar with. And over the years of interviewing you doctors from Harvard Eye, there's things I've gotten familiar with. But this one, I don't recall. So it's called epiretinal membranes, right?
That's correct, yes.
So first explain what that is.
Sure. This is surprisingly, based on what you just told me, it sounds about right, actually. This is one of those things that is not that well known, yet is so common, we all really should be aware of this. Epiretinal membranes, or ERMs, go by multiple different names. They're called macular puckers or cellophane maculopathy or retina wrinkles sometimes, but they're very common. They occur in about 10% of the population. 1 in 10 people has this over the age of 50.
Really?
Now, this isn't a blinding condition, but it can certainly cause blurriness or distortion in your vision, which can be not attributable to anything else. So without a full, complete eye exam, this may not be caught.
Okay.
So the grid on the right that you see.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about there.
So some people have this little wrinkle on their retina, and it can cause a little bit of a distortion. It's almost like crumpling film in a camera. So it'll create a little bit of you can see the lines, but it's not quite clear.
And this is on the back of your eye?
That's correct. This is all inside of the eye. So if on the next slide, this is actually what it looks like. So we're talking about the retina here. So this is inside the eye, so behind the pupil. And in the very back, right in the center of the retina, which is called the macula, sometimes about, like I said, 1 in 10 people have a little bit of a tissue buildup. And it's kind of like scar tissue, but not really. And it works like saran wrap. If you take saran wrap and you stretch it and you stick it onto a surface, it's going to start to shrinky dink and wrinkle. And, and you can actually see that here. And on the photograph, it actually looks like a wrinkle.
Now, I noticed 10% of the population over 50. So, like other wrinkles, is this due to age, or can it be caused by some other things? Your diet, too much protein, too much this or that, or?
Yeah, it's generally an age-related thing that we see, and most of them just arise out of nowhere, by no means or no identifiable cause. They can be, however, associated with other retinal conditions, which I have there's a list coming up. But great question. So this is what we see. We take a very specialized camera. It's called an OCT. And it's a retinal scan that takes the cross-section here. So we're looking at the actual height of the retina. And this is
interesting.
This is almost at the molecular level. This is a pretty advanced technology.
So it's almost like a slicing it across the sphere.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's at the cellular level. So we can almost see the cells here. But yeah, at the top image, we can see a very normal contour with a nice little dip in the center. One step down it's a very mild epiretinal membrane, which probably isn't affecting vision all that much, but maybe not 20/20, but not pretty close. The one at the bottom is something that's much more significant, something that's going to have a significant impact on vision and may necessitate surgery.
Okay, so, now would this be seen, I know when I went to go get an eye exam with you folks, and I forget I had the traditional, with the lenses and all that, but then you have the different apparatus where you kind of look into and they can really measure everything. Will that pick that up? So in a normal, detailed eye exam, would you pick up something like this?
Usually we can usually pick this up when we actually look into the eye on a dilated eye examination. Yeah.
All right.
The question is, do we care? Because about a third of these really don't affect vision all that much, so there's really no need to pick it up. This is not a blinding condition, but it can be very annoying and aggravating to about 50% of people who have them. So, but yeah, the most common finding, or the most common time that we find this, is actually after cataract surgery. When we don't quite get the results that we expect, we do a scan of the retina and we find this. It's something that was pre-existing that we couldn't see very well through a cataract, but now we see it. So this can be a very frustrating source of blurry vision or unforeseen, expectations are not quite what you expect after cataract surgery. So again, it doesn't happen in everybody. In most people, it's not the case. Most people now screen for this prior to cataract surgery.
So what would somebody see who has this? Let's say not the real mild condition, but it's the step up. Yeah. Would it be somewhat of a blurry, like I'm putting on my glasses, nothing's really happening, or a little spot blurriness, or what?
That's right. It's usually blurriness right in the middle of the vision.
Okay. All right.
So even a little bit of distortion. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. This is not, despite having the name or the word macular.
Yeah, that scares people.
It scares a lot of people, but this is not related to macular degeneration at all, which is usually the next question.
Okay. So age-related here, right?
Typically, that's the most common one. Just happens.
So it's not. It may or may not be preventable.
That's correct. It's generally not. So generally not. It's just kind of bad luck. But,
well, along with that, would this be something that's hereditary? And would you know that, being that years ago, was this even screened for?
We only really saw the ones that were more severe, the ones that were more apparent on examination, and the ones who could be, the people who couldn't read as well as we'd expect them to. But this is something that we really only care about if it is impacting the vision.
Okay.
So,
all right. So, other retinal conditions, diabetes, and so on, of course.
Yeah. These are the common ones that this is also associated with. Typically, it's associated with floaters, which most everybody eventually has, which is the most common scenario. But in people who have diabetes or previous bleeds in the retina, or any kind of retinal tear, lasers, freezing treatments, or any kind of retinal condition can really promote the growth of this. Okay,
you mentioned floaters, and explain that, because everyone gets those now and then. I certainly have had them, and I remember going to some science center years ago up in San Francisco, and they explained it was at the Exploratorium years ago, and you'd look into something, and they go, do you see stuff like this now and then? And where everybody was like, yeah, we do. What is this? And they kind of explain it. But there can be more severe forms of that, right?
That's exactly right. So the reason we see the floaters is inside of our eye we have a gel, a vitreous gel, and it floats around. And as we get older, it starts to liquefy a little bit more. So now you can start to see the proteins in the gel moving around. And if you think snow in a snow globe, it starts to make sense why you're seeing these things. Now when that happens, we're not entirely sure where these come from, the epiretinal membranes. But we know that they're from cells that kind of get kicked up or stirred up in the process. So people who have more significant floaters oftentimes are predisposed to having this, which is probably why we're seeing this in about 10% of the population. I mean, that's a huge percentage.
That is a percentage, a huge percentage. Yeah, definitely. So retinal tears, as you said, and inflammation of the eye. And of course, if somebody has some of these symptoms, especially inflammation of the eye, hopefully they're coming in to see somebody like you.
That's correct.
And you can start to check all this out.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
All right, so who should be evaluated? Corrective lenses cannot improve vision. Yeah, I mean, as you just said, somebody gets glasses or contacts, and they're like, well, some things may be better, but I'm still getting the blurriness and all the conditions listed above. So
that's right. So this is a pretty common algorithm as far as evaluation goes, And if we're routinely checking vision and we just can't get the vision to where we would expect it to be, this is a very routine kind of evaluation. So we generally screen for this.
So what can be done?
Well, early on, there's not a whole lot that necessarily needs to be done. If your vision is well within the DMB limits, then that's fine. Yes, it can be annoying, but the only real option here for treatment is surgery. And surgery is a fair deal in this case. This is not something where our goal is 20/20 with surgery. It's not like LASIK.
Right.
The goal is 20 better. So in general, we have to, the risks of surgery have to be less than the benefits that we get. So in general, it's pretty blurry, and to be honest, most people really are pretty happy with their vision overall. Or they get used to it, so it's not terrible.
Will it degenerate even more?
Generally, there's an upper limit, so they tend to grow very slowly over months or years, and then they sort of reach a plateau where they don't generally tend to progress too much. So there's a little bit. Yeah. A little bit.
So it's a good idea, again, what all you doctors tell us from Harvard Eye is the routine eye exams, because you're going to pick this stuff up, or if somebody, as you said, they've got new contacts or glasses or something, you're noticing, you know, I'm still getting a little blurriness, something's going on, and you want to find out, okay, what's there, what's going on, right?
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So,
all right, very good. And again, even though it has that scary word macular in it, it may be bothersome, but certainly not what macular degeneration could be.
That's correct, yeah. It's usually more of an annoyance than anything else, or a source of frustration, more than anything else. But yeah, I'd say more people, it's only about 5 or 10% of people who actually go on to require surgery or feel the need for surgery.
Right, and that's 5 or 10% out of the 10%. Yes,
that's correct.
So pretty small amount.
Pretty small, yeah.
All right, good to see you as always. You take care. We'll see you again. And really appreciate all this information. I always learn so much from the doctors at Harvard Eye when they come on. And you know, the whole thing is get your eyes checked and get them regularly, maybe once a year if you're not having any kind of real problems or anything.
Yeah, right? Once a year.
All right, very good. Good to see you. We'll be right back.